All right, everyone. Well, we are back from our short little break there, and I am excited to bring on a guy that I consider like my brother here, Aaron Young, who's the CEO of Laughlin Associates. He's also the badass host of the Unshackled Owner Podcast out there. This guy is doing some amazing things out there for everybody, not only just for entrepreneurs, but he's really sharing a lot of the great journeys and things like that are happening out there for people. So I highly encourage you to listen to the Unshackled Owner Podcast. But Aaron has Laughlin Associates over, I think, 48, 49-year history of helping entrepreneurs really protect their assets and, define some things to protect the corporate veil of things. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially podcasters who have a show, who have a book, who have coaching and things like that, really need to listen to what Aaron's going to be sharing over here the next 60, 70 minutes about protecting your podcast assets, your IP, and all the other things that can come from hosting a show. So we're honored to have Aaron Young join us Saturday. Guy's been traveling. He's been a new grandfather multiple times over in the last couple of weeks. And so we're honored to have Aaron Young making his first appearance on the Mass Media Podcast Summit, brother.
Thanks, Scott. Going? Yeah, it's going great. Yeah, two new grandsons in the last 2 weeks. So that's number 5 and number 6. We're very, very grateful. With all the stuff we do is to make it possible to live a life that we can love, right? And in our house, our family is, my marriage, and my wife. We will have our 33rd anniversary here in a couple of weeks.
Congratulations.
And everything is about Michelle, our children and their spouses, and now these grandkids. And all the work stuff we do is to perpetuate the opportunity to be with them, to have experiences together, and hopefully leave something behind to help make, maybe not the kids, we'll maybe make them suffer a little bit, but the grandkids, we're hooking the grandkids up. So anybody that's listening that has grandkids knows what I'm talking about. So anyway, what we're talking about today, let me go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah.
And unless you have any other questions.
No, not right now. I think that's, I would agree to that totally. We bust our butt to have fun and really live and enjoy life and go on from there. So.
Yeah. How does that look? It doesn't seem to be filling the whole screen.
It's not filling the whole thing. You need to maximize that because we still see your.
Yeah. Let me go back and see if I missed a button here.
I don't think so. I think you just need to stretch that out and maximize it because it's looked like it's in presentation, but it's just not filling your screen.
Yeah, that's fine. Normally it just fills the whole screen. So how's that?
There we go. Perfect.
All right. So what we're talking about today is protecting your intellectual property by properly using corporations and LLCs. And, the thing is, well, let me give you a little background about who I am first. First of all, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a CPA. I'm a business guy who's been starting, buying, selling companies for 36 years. Laughlin Associates was a company that we bought. And the reason I have this disclaimer slide is simply to say, I'm not giving legal or accounting advice. I'm giving experiential advice. We're always delighted to work with your lawyer, your accountant, whomever your financial advisor or legal advisor is. If there's anything that I talk about, you go, oh, I want to check more into that. That sounds really good, but I want to cross-check it. We're good with that because we're not a law firm. But for almost 50 years, we've been helping hundreds of thousands of business owners to start, grow, and profit from being an entrepreneur or from being an investor. So today we're talking about building intellectual property, expanding your reach, getting more clients, making a bigger impact, and so on. And as you create intellectual property, you want to make sure that you're protecting it so it doesn't get taken away from you. So we work with clients all over the world. We have representation in all 50 states. We're lawsuit planning, estate planning, tax planning. Although we're not CPAs, we show you how to use structures for different sorts of outcomes. We do corporate compliance, which we're going to talk a lot about today. And that may sound dull. Do not make the fatal mistake of going, oh, that doesn't sound very exciting. Because what I'm going to teach you to do in this hour is how to build a solid foundation under everything that you have so that you can grow, expand, monetize, get wealthy, do big things, make a big impact, and be safe. And that is a big deal. So we do compliance services, education, trademarks, all kinds of stuff. So our mission statement at Laughlin is that we are fortress builders. We build a fortress around our clients' business and personal assets. So you might ask yourself, well, why do I need a fortress? What's the big deal? And depending on who you are and what you're doing, why you're podcasting, what other things you're trying to, there's a reason you're doing your podcast. Some of you, it may be just sort of like you like to talk about things that you enjoy, and others of you are probably trying to figure out how to monetize or how to drive leads or interest to your brick and mortar business, to your coaching business, to your speaking business, to your author business, to your whatever it is, real estate investment business, whatever it is. So why would we need a fortress? Well, because we live in a crazy litigious country. The United States of America has about 5% of the world's population, 94% of the world's litigation. So this little island over here, this little part of North America has kind of a corner on the lawsuit market. So we don't want you to get sucked into the middle of a big mess. Or if you do, we want you to be able to be bold, be strong, and not get your stuff taken away from you. That's why we build a fortress, not because you're doing something wrong, but there are a lot of people out there who want to take the things that you've done the work to build, who want to, what do they call it? Reallocate your money to them. You want the redistribution of wealth, right? And so Scott's laughing because, guys, I'll tell you what, if you've never been through it, it's hard to believe until you go through it. And then you say, oh, I now understand why I want a fortress around my stuff. So let's go through that and talk about that. There's all kinds of risk when you engage with the public. Whatever sort of activity you're involved in, when you start to engage with the client, with the public, when you start to build a business, there are all these different risks that come along with engaging with the public. And so people use business structures like corporations and limited liability companies in order to mitigate their risk, in order to get advantages. And I'll tell you why the advantages in just a second. But we use corporate structures for asset protection, which is really lawsuit protection, tax savings, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of deductions that a business can take, let me say it differently, not a business, a corporation or LLC can take that a sole proprietor cannot. So while sole proprietors certainly do get some tax benefits, not even remotely close to what a corporation or LLC gets. You use business structures to separate yourself, the human being, from the business entity and the business activity. In other words, you're a shareholder, but you're not that corporation. And that separation is what gives you protection, especially if things don't work out. This says protection against creditors. Number 3, protection against creditors means if the business thing that you're working on doesn't work out, and maybe it racks up some debt and the business concept has failed and it's not going to make sense to keep going, you can close a properly organized business down and cauterize the losses right there. Whereas if you don't do things properly, all the debt of the business follows you. The reason corporations were designed in the first place 500 years ago was to separate the shareholders from the business activity, so that if the activity didn't work, if the ship sinks, you don't have to go down with the ship. Okay, this is a very important fact This is why corporations and LLCs exist. Of course, from an estate planning perspective, corporations or LLCs don't die. They get a new board of directors, they get new shareholders, they get new officers, new employees, but the company can keep going. That's why you have companies that are well over 100 years old that just keep working. Okay. And from a public perception, especially getting contracts, getting guests, putting together deals, working with sponsors and all that. If you're president of the company, or you're the founder, managing member of the LLC, that gives you a different level of prestige and credibility than just saying, oh, I'm Aaron and I have a podcast and it's really great. And you really should, give me money to sponsor my podcast. If I can identify that we're set up properly, that we have listeners, that we have got a history of doing other things successfully, and now we're doing this, this gives you a foot in the door to beginning to monetize and even get better guests on your podcast if you're interviewing people. So these are some of the reasons we use structures. I remember learning years ago from one of my mentors, Stephen Covey. He said, always begin with the end in mind. So first thing is, why are you podcasting? Why are you here? Why did you show up for this event? Why are you putting in the time and the effort and the expense to buy microphones and set up a studio and do all the work? Why are you doing it? What's the outcome that you're hoping for? I wish you'd take just a moment with your pen or pencil and write down, what is the outcome you're hoping for? Is it more speaking opportunities? Is it to find prospective clients? Is it to make $1 million? Is it to get attention to your nonprofit? Is it to bring awareness to some social topic? Could be politics, it could be illness, it could be health. I mean, what is it? And what's not just what are you doing it for, but what's the outcome that you want? Because knowing the outcome will inform the right kind of business structure and how to proceed building this asset in your entrepreneurial portfolio. So we want to think about what's the outcome you want and start to build things for that. Now, again, a minute ago, I talked about separation. So now we know where you want to go. Hopefully you knew it already and you wrote it down quickly. You know kind of what you want to do, what your intention is. And we want to build a fortress around you. And as I said a minute ago, the key to making this work is separation. You as the shareholder are separate from the business activity. You can be the one doing all the work. You can be the one putting in all the money. You can be the one doing everything, but we need to clearly define the bright lines of separation between you, the individual, and the business activity or the corporation or the LLC. Okay. There's a great expression I love that says, I am not the corporation. This could also say LLC, but it's easier. It rolls better off the tongue this way. I am not the corporation. The corporation is not me. I am not the corporation. The corporation is separate from me. I'm the shareholder. That's the corporation. I'm not the corporation, and the corporation isn't me. The corporation is not my alter ego. It is a separate entity. In the eyes of the law of the courts, a corporation or an LLC, a properly organized LLC, is a separate paper person, separate from you. You're a shareholder, but it's by itself. If you do it right, if you do it wrong, if you cut corners, if you don't follow the rules, if you treat it like your alter ego, the government, the courts, anybody that you want to do business with is going to treat it like an alter ego of yours, not like a separate entity. And you will have really lost any value you might have had by forming the company in the first place, the corporation or the LLC. We don't want to have wasted money. We want to have money well spent that gives us protection, gives us tax deduction, gives us credibility, gives us longevity. These are the things you can get when you do it right. And doing it right is not difficult, but almost all small businesses, almost all are doing things wrong. They're ignoring the law, they're breaking the law, and they wonder then why, when they get in trouble, why the law doesn't protect them. When we're done with whatever time we have left, when we're done with this, about 45 minutes, you will, you'll know exactly what needs to be done. No ambiguity. You'll know exactly what it is, and you can start doing it. Okay. So there are three kinds of business entities: C Corp, S Corp, and limited liability company. C Corporation is like most publicly traded companies, or companies that are a little bit bigger and they want to have employee stock option plans, or they want to have, they want to go raise money, or most bigger companies or companies on a very upward trajectory are C corporations. If you're simpler, it's just you, maybe you and your spouse owning the company. And I want you to pay attention to what I said. I said you by yourself, or you and your spouse. Okay. Not you and your kids, not you and your friend, not you and your parents, you and your spouse. Then we typically use S corporations. And if it's you and a few other people that are all going to be engaged in the company, bringing different disparate values, talents, lists, work, sweat, whatever, then usually we're going to look at an LLC. So depending on what your outcome is, remember, begin with the end in mind. Depending on the outcome that you want, you're going to form one of these types of business entities. Now, they're all different, but what do they all have in common? What is the same in all three? C corporation, S corporation, limited liability company. The thing that is the same is they're all required to keep corporate formalities. As the owner of a corporation, a C Corp, an S Corp, or an LLC, you're required by law to document major business activities. You're required at or near the time of a decision to document it in the proper legal order and put it into your corporate minute book, such that if you're ever examined, they see you're acting like a real corporation, a real LLC, and not like a hobby alter ego kind of business. When it is deemed an alter ego, they ignore it all. They wipe it away. But if you are doing the right things, they go, oh, you're going to get protection. We're going to treat you the way that you're hoping that they'll treat you. Okay. This is critically important. Now, so if you have to do this extra work, well, why would people want to even go to the hassle of doing it? Well, there's a gigantic reason that is going to make sense right off the bat to, I think, everybody. Corporations and LLCs that are properly structured enjoy numerous pre-tax benefits. There is so much stuff your company can buy or pay for with pre-tax money, expenses of the business. Now, you can't cheat and you can't be a pig about it, but what you can do is do everything the law will allow you to do, which can be enormous. You can do all kinds of stuff using pre-tax money that benefits your life. And this little tiny list here is a fraction, tiny little fraction of what opportunities wait for you when you do things right, when you follow the rules, and when you learn how to get the greatest advantage out of your LLC or your corporation. That pre-tax life is way valuable. It's like getting a 30, 40% pay increase. You wonder why these incredibly wealthy people pay very low taxes. And the reason is because when you start to morph from a W-2 employee to a business owner, your life fundamentally changes. I heard him say one time, individuals pay taxes, corporations take deductions. And let that sink in for a minute. People pay taxes. Corporations take deductions. Enormously important, folks, enormously important. So there's huge, huge opportunity for a great enhancement of your life if you're a business owner. It doesn't even mean your business has to be making a lot of money, Maybe you're just getting started. There's a great book called, what's it called? Oh my gosh, I just blanked out on the book. I'll think of it in a minute. But the point is, the CPA lawyer enrolled agent that wrote it, Sandy Botkin, said in his book, you would have to be brain dead to not form a corporation or LLC, because the benefits are so huge, even if you're in the process of trying to figure out what the business activity is going to be. So he said you would have to be brain dead to not want to take advantage of this pre-tax life. All right. So it's really tremendous opportunities when you start to think multidimensionally, you start thinking like a bigger player, and your podcast and the intellectual property that you're creating is a perfect thing to put into a corporation, or depending on how the ownership is going to be, maybe an LLC, very likely a corporation. Okay. So we know that owning a corporation or LLC gives you big benefits. And with the big benefits, enormous, gigantic benefits, come big responsibilities. And the biggest mistake that we see people who own a corporation or an LLC who are taking advantage of all these great things, the biggest single mistake we see in our industry is their failure to document the business decisions, the failure to treat that LLC, treat that corporation like a separate entity rather than their alter ego. I'm saying 95% plus small business owners are just utterly screwing it up. It's fixable, but almost everyone is doing it wrong. And it's not that they're trying to do it wrong. It's not that they're dumb, but they may be unaware of the rules associated with operating a corporation or LLC. They may think, I understand why those rules, I understand the rules a little bit, but they seem like they're for big companies, not for a one-person company like me. Let's dive into that a little further. Okay. First of all, let's talk about the facts. I told you about the big benefits. Now let's talk about the negatives. 57%. Let me go back one step. Let me take that slide away. I told you the United States is the most litigious country in the world. Okay. Let me give you a little bit more visceral feeling about that. There's a lawsuit filed against a small business, 100 employees or less. There is a lawsuit filed against a small business every 22 seconds in the United States. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That is every 22 seconds, somebody is suing a small business owner in this country. Okay. 57% of the lawsuits are against companies of $1 million or less. Okay. In top line revenue, $1 million or less. So are you at $1 million or $500,000 or $100,000 or $25,000? I read a horrible statistic recently that said the average entrepreneur, according to the last census, average entrepreneur in the United States makes $24,000 a year from their entrepreneurial activities. Now, we know a lot of entrepreneurs are also working a job so they can survive, but most people are not getting rich. But it doesn't matter. 57% of lawsuits, nobody knows how much money you're making. They assume if you're doing something out in the public, you have a business, you're kind of getting famous, you have your podcast, you've written a book, you're giving a talk, all those things, you must have something they don't have, and they want to reallocate your stuff to them. So 57% of those every 22 seconds lawsuits are against small companies, Main Street businesses, working from home businesses. It doesn't mean they're doing anything wrong. It just means somebody's trying to get something from them. All right. Audits are single member, sole proprietors and single member LLCs, one member LLCs are the most audited business structures. Sole proprietor means there's no business entity. It's just you doing business, you doing a podcast, you making an offer. Okay. Just you. no corporate structure. Number one, most audited business type, sole proprietor. 2 is single member limited liability companies. Why? Well, single member LLCs are almost always a one-person company, and the IRS is smart enough to know that one-person companies don't know the rules, don't have a legal team, probably don't have outside accounting, probably are using QuickBooks, probably are using TurboTax or something like it. They don't keep a lot of records. They don't keep their receipts. They don't document things the way they're supposed to. They commingle funds. So audits of them are way up. Audits are generally down in the United States right now because the IRS budget's been cut. But you know what? If they're going to audit someone, they audit people or companies that look like they're going to be the easiest target, cost the least amount of money to beat in an audit, right? They don't want to go up against huge companies because they don't have the human resources at the IRS to really do a good job against a big corporate titan who has a huge legal team, huge accounting, all kinds of confusing counting. Most small businesses are very simple. They can come in 5 minutes. They can go, oh, you're doing it wrong. We're coming after you. And if you get found to have, for whatever reason, you don't qualify, maybe you didn't follow the rules. So they say, oh, you know, those corporate deductions, we're taking them away. And by the way, not only do you owe that tax that you didn't pay, but you owe a 45% penalty as well. Pretty serious stuff. Pretty serious stuff. So the fact is that lawsuits and audits are primarily aimed at small business owners because small business owners are easy. The IRS or the state taxing authorities can come in and win very quickly. And lawsuits, they know that it's never going to go to court. You'll end up settling with them because they will just beat you down, beat you down, beat you down until you go, what does it cost to make this stop? It's legal extortion. So we don't want that to happen to you. We want you to have a fortress. So when people come after you, they run into a brick wall. Well, let me tell you what some of the things that are going on out there in the world. See, remember I talked about this before. Formal documents are the thing that proves you and the company are separate. The formal documents, the stuff in your corporate minute book, are the things that show that you and the company are separate. It's the only thing. It doesn't matter how many state fees you've paid. It doesn't matter that you have different bank accounts. It doesn't matter that you have a brick and mortar office somewhere. It doesn't matter. The only one thing that shows the separation is what's in your corporate minute book. And most people don't even have one. And if they do, they don't use it. So this says formal documents prove you and the company are separate. Remember, I'm not the company's not me, right? If you get examined and you're found to not be in order, they will take away your lawsuit protection. They will take away your tax deductions, and you will be standing naked, beaten up, embarrassed, looking dumb in front of your family, your staff, your friends, mostly when you look in the mirror. Okay. And here's the deal. If what I teach you today, you don't decide to take action on it in some way, shape, or form with me or somebody else, if you don't take action and you do get into these kinds of situations and you look in the mirror, it will be very frustrating, I promise. Because I've met a lot of people I call event driven. They didn't do things, they got into a bad situation, and then once you're in the bad situation, you're stuck with it. You have to ride it out. And then at the end of it, when it's done, they're like, oh my gosh, I can never, ever let that happen to me again. Event driven. This guy in the barrel, event driven. Okay. He's lost everything. So I'm not the corporation. Corporation is not me. How do we make that happen? In the United States, there's something called piercing the corporate veil. It'd be interesting to say just even in the comments, I can't see the comments when I'm doing this. By the way, if you guys have any questions about anything I'm talking about, all you have to do is write them in the comments, and Scott will, or somebody on his team will curate those things, and we'll talk about them at the end. But piercing the corporate veil means basically somebody comes after your business and they also name you personally, and their goal is to get everything inside the business and everything you have. And this can go the other way as well. They can come after you directly and then say, oh, they own a corporation or an LLC. Well, let's go get all that stuff too. All right. So that's called piercing the corporate veil. The corporate veil is the thing that separates you, the shareholder, the member, from the corporation or the LLC. That's called the corporate veil or the corporate shield, or there's a lot of names for it, but corporate veil is the legal term of art. It's the veil that separates the shareholders from the business entity. All right. So that's what piercing the corporate veil is. Look at this little quote from Wake Forest Law. Piercing the corporate veil has become the most litigated issue in corporate law today. Remember, every 22 seconds, there's a lawsuit against a small business. Piercing the corporate veil has become the most litigated issue in corporate law today. In every case, the goal, the intent, the plaintiff's intent is to acquire the personal and business assets of the company at least half the time they win. At least half the time they win. Every 22 seconds, there's a lawsuit. The most litigated issue in all those lawsuits is getting the biggest pot of gold at the end of the hoped for rainbow. So they're hoping to get a lot of stuff. And you could say, well, my podcast isn't really making any money now. But what do you have in mortgage or in your equity in your home? What do you have in your house? What other vacation property do you own? Do you own a boat? Do you own cars? Do you own artwork? Do you own a coin collection? Do you own stock? What else do you have? What else do you have that you do not want to lose? Because when you engage with the world, every 22 seconds, somebody's getting sued. I read an interesting one of those little sidebar things in USA Today a few years ago. And it says, if you own a business, you have a 1 in 4 chance of being named in a lawsuit in the next 12 months. If you own a business, it didn't say how big. If you own a business, you have a 1 in 4 chance of being named in a lawsuit in the next 12 months. And that was several years ago. Litigation rates are going up. So piercing the corporate veil is the most common thing. It's happening a lot. As business owners, it doesn't matter if we have a lot of money. It doesn't matter. It only matters how we're perceived by other people. And they will go and start poking at us, trying to get us to give them some free money. And if you have an easy estate to get a hold of, there's a whole specialty in the law, which is to work on commission to try to go shake somebody down and get their stuff. So I know that sounds very harsh, very negative. You're going, what does this have to do with my podcast? And I'm telling you that you're podcasting for some outcome. Probably it has to do with magnifying your opportunities in business in some way, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit. The idea is to do more, to get sponsors, to get paid for commercials, to drive leads, to do all that sort of thing. The bigger you are, the more out there you are, the more people get jealous and the more they want to reallocate your wealth. They want to you guys know the expression.
Reallocation of funds from your pocket to their pockets.
Yes, but what is it? It's yes, reallocation of funds. So here's how we're going to solve the problem. Since small corporations and LLCs are the greatest at risk, we've got to protect the corporate veil. So what are we going to do? Well, first of all, you have to act like a real company. And that means you need to start holding regular board of directors meetings. Annual meetings are not remotely enough, not even close. Quarterly, maybe. Monthly, probably. And you go, well, that seems weird. Why would I hold a board meeting every month? Well, because if you have a LLC or a corporation, your bylaws or your operating agreement say you need to have a board resolution at or near the time of any decision, of any significant decision. And you're making significant decisions every week. So if you're going to follow the law and keep the corporate veil in place and actually be separate, you need to hold meetings. You need to keep minutes of the meetings, which is, here's what we talked about. And then you need to pass resolutions at those board meetings that are basically permission slips from the board to the president or the manager to go and do the work. Now, I know that for those of you who have a corporation or LLC, there's a very good chance that you are the shareholder, you're the board member, you're the president or manager. I know that. I get that. You probably are the only member of the board of directors, and that's okay. But that does not mean you don't have to have regular meetings, keep minutes, and pass resolutions. And you go, but wait a minute. This sounds insane. Why in the world would I have to have a board meeting with myself, by myself? I'd like to call this meeting to order. Let's take roll. Okay, we have a full quorum. Perfect. And then what do we need to discuss? Let's open it up for discussion. Well, I think we need to start an employee car allowance program. I think we need to start paying for fuel and wear and tear and so on our employees' cars. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good idea. I know the employee that you're talking about, and that guy, he may be driving around all over the place. We don't know if he's working all the time. Well, here's what I know. If we don't start taking good care of this guy, we're going to lose him. Now remember, there's only one person here. We're talking about me. The board, me, is talking about the employee, me, right? That's a good point. We don't want to lose that guy. If we lose him, we're finished. Okay, well then I move that we establish an employee automobile reimbursement program. I second the motion. So moved. And you write a resolution. Now I know that sounds insane. I know it sounds silly, but it's the law. It is the law. If we want all the tax deductions, if we want all the tax credits, if we want all the lawsuit protection, if we want to build a fortress around our personal and business assets, we must follow this rule. These laws must be followed. They're not just a good idea. They are the rules that give you the result that you're hoping for when you form a corporation or an LLC. So we need to have regular board meetings, pass or keep minutes, pass resolutions. Is there anything else we need to do to make sure we keep our corporate veil strong? Well, a lot of common mistakes are like, here, let's go back to this one, commingling of funds. People, when they've maxed out their credit cards, put in their savings, self-directed their IRAs or their 401ks, they go, that's my money, that's my company, that's my stuff, that's my truck, it's my rental property, it's my podcast, it's my desk, my computer, my stuff. Now, sure, the company paid for all of it, but you're going, no, it's mine, 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 mine. That commingling is what eliminates the corporate veil. It says the company is just your alter ego because the company paid for your stuff and you're saying it's all yours. Well, then you've pierced the corporate veil. You no longer have the protection. You must treat these things separately. And we can go into examples of that afterward if people have questions. What else? Well, whenever you sign anything on behalf of the company, you always use your title, okay? President or manager. CEO is not a title. President, treasurer, secretary, director, manager, member, those are titles. CEO, CFO, COO, those are not titles. Those are designations inside of a company. They're not legal titles, okay? President, most of you will either be a president of your corporation or a manager of your LLC, okay? Use the proper titles. Why? Because here's the deal. if you were to go through a battle, go through a bankruptcy, go through some challenge, anything that might be able to be wiped out because it was in the name of the corporation and you used your title and you did everything right. And now, the ship sank and, there you go. It's too bad. It's over with. Well, anything where you didn't, like any vendors where you had invoices or contracts or anything that you did where you didn't use your title, they can come back after the bankruptcy and say, oh, yeah, I'm really glad you were able to get rid of all those debts. Good for you. But in these cases, we weren't dealing with Aaron Young, president. We were just dealing with Aaron Young, the guy. So you still owe us this money. And they can come after you in a significant way. So the little extra 1 second it takes to write your title, just do it, because that little tiny bit of effort, that little tiny bit of ink will be the difference between something being cauterized and something that can just keep coming at you in a problem. Okay, so follow the rules, use your title. That will help to prevent the corporate veil from being pierced. You've got to keep your company in good standing with the state. If it shows that you're constantly in and out of good standing, they'll say you don't take a company seriously. Fact is, most people just do nothing at all. They bury their heads in the sand and they assume, this doesn't really apply to me. It applies to bigger companies, more profitable companies, somebody else, not me. Until it's your turn in that every 22-second cycle to get chosen. Okay, so let's hope that doesn't happen to you, but you don't want to be the person who ignores this. I'm teaching you right now what to do, to hold the meetings, to pass the resolutions, put them in your corporate record book, to issue stock, to sign with your title, and so on and so on and so on. All the things I've talked about, right? These things are important. People are always saying though, but nobody's going to bug me. Who's ever going to look at a record book? Why? I don't even have one. Why would I need a record book? No one's ever going to look at my record book. Or I'm a nice person. Nobody's going to sue me. I have an LLC. Somebody told me you didn't have to do this stuff in LLCs. It's kind of true and utterly false. Statutorily, in other words, the way the law is written, LLCs do not have to do corporate formalities. However, there's something that supersedes statutory law, and it's called case law. And case law in all 50 states says even one-member LLCs, all LLCs, including single-member LLCs, must maintain proper business formalities. So it started out as a good idea. It got overturned by the courts. So don't be fooled into complacency by believing I have an LLC, I don't have to do this. It's not true. You do have to do it. The law says, yep, even one-member LLCs need to do it. Why would anybody ever audit me? I don't make that much money, or I don't cheat on my taxes, and I'm a nice person, I do the right thing, and it doesn't matter. Audits are a lot of times are done by lottery. So, and by the way, even if you get audited and you win, you've now made a short list, and odds are you'll be audited from time to time into the future. So what you want to do is if you get audited and the auditor comes in, you want to show, first thing they're going to look at is your corporate minute book, number one, because they're going to want to say, are we dealing with an entity or an individual, a corporation, LLC, or just a person? Okay. So if they come in and they look at your minute book and everything's been done properly, then they're going to go, oh, well, if they're doing this right, they're probably doing the other stuff right. And so we're going to give this a quick look. Then we're going to go to somebody else. It's going to be an easier nut to crack. Okay. This is how it works. I've talked to lots of auditors. It is how it works. So I'll never get audited. It's just silly. Audits against companies $5 million and less are up 38%. So audits are against small companies. I'm going to have my lawyer take care of those minutes and resolutions and board meetings, quarterly or monthly board meetings. I'll have my lawyer do it. Well, folks, for 99.9% of small business owners, podcasters, intellectual property creators, business owners, 99% of those, 99.9% do not have a lawyer. So you can say, oh, no, Aaron, I don't need that. All of my lawyer does that. I just call BS on that because I work with over 200 law firms. And I know there's not one of them who wants to do this work. They don't solicit for it. They don't want to do it. It's low billable hours. It's low value for them. They would much rather do contracts, do negotiations, do litigation. They'll form the entity for you and charge you a lot of money for it, but they don't want to do your corporate minutes. They do not want to do it. And so if you say this, I'm going to say that for almost everybody, you're just fooling yourself. Okay. It's just not true. So do what you want, but this is an excuse for most people. Now, some people say, oh, I can do my minutes. I can do my resolutions. I can get a corporate book together. I know how to do all that stuff, or I can figure it out. And you can figure it out. 100% you can figure it out. But there are hundreds of items that need to be properly put into a board resolution. Hundreds of them. There are tons of different kinds of resolutions. And so even knowing which stuff ought to be written down in a resolution and then writing it in the proper format and putting it into the corporate book, you can learn to do it. I would ask you, is that your highest and best use of your time? Probably not, but maybe it is. So I've got the next slide that's for the do-it-yourselfers. So if you're a do-it-yourselfer, then I want you to pay attention here real quick and tell me what you think about this. But here, you don't try to take a picture. Just try to try to take it in and think about which of these things are things maybe I should have board resolutions for. Ready? Here we go. This is
and they just keep showing up.
It's sobering. Guys, just keep taking a look. These are just a tiny fraction of the most common resolutions. Oh no, I bumped something, I missed it. Well, you see what I'm talking about. You missed about half of them. And if anybody wants to see it, you'll get to see it in the replay if you want to look at all of them. I bumped my mouse, I'm sorry about that. But folks, here's the bottom line. Hundreds of things that need to be documented, hundreds. And just the 50 or so that come up on this slide, it's just the tip of the iceberg. So the question you have to ask yourself is, are you in compliance? Do you know how to stay in compliance? And are you going to do the work? Or is that going to be one of those things you're like, I know I need to do it, but I'll do it later because I don't really think I'm at any risk. So I'll do it later. Scott, I'm going to ask you a question. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right. I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you for the sake of the audience. Have you ever been sued? I mean, I have been sued. Have you ever been sued?
Yes.
And is it because you're a bad guy, fraudulent guy, or
No.
did you do something to hurt anybody?
No, I've been sued by people fraudulently. I've been sued by people on a deal that's dragged out longer. It happens. I mean, that's the thing. If you're in business, as you said, you're going to get sued at some point. I don't care what you're doing. You could be the nicest guy or the nicest gal, and still things are not going to go right. And people in a suit happy world, you're going to get sued.
Scott and I both are speak at a lot of real estate and investor related events. And in real estate or in oil and gas, in most of the, even in the stock market, but especially real estate and oil and gas, it's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
You are going to get sued if you're in the real estate business. It's going to happen at some point, unless you just say you're in the business and you don't do any work. But if you actually are doing it, you're going to get sued at some point. It's not because you did anything wrong. It's because people either want your stuff or they don't like how the contract reads, or they decide they want to change the business points, And the only way they can think to do it is to sue you. You can get sued I run companies and employ a lot of people. We get sued for who we hired, who we didn't hire, who we fired, why we fired them, how old they were when we let them go, or why we didn't hire them based on age, color, gender, sexual persuasion, whatever. I just didn't want to hire you because I didn't think you'd do a good job. You weren't right for what I was looking for, and then you're going to sue me? I've kept you on for years beyond your shelf life, and you make mistake after mistake, but I knew you didn't have any other where to go, and now you're 80 years old, and I say, we're going to let you go now, and you sue me for age discrimination. These are real things that have happened to me. It's insane, but it's the way of the world. Everybody believes in easy money. And there was a study done by the government. This is maybe 15 years ago. And the 3 top ways people believed they could get wealthy. Top 3 ways they could become wealthy. Number 1, win the lottery. Number 2, win a lawsuit. Number 3, inherit the money. Not start my own company, not take risk, not work my butt off in a job that, go to college, get an education, work my way up the ladder. No. Win the lottery, win a lawsuit, inherit the money. This was the mentality of our folks walking around the streets. The fact that you're here on this training summit shows that you think differently than the average person on the street. You're thinking differently. So you go, is that really true? But you don't think the same way as most other people do, because you're here trying to improve your situation. You're doing work on a Saturday afternoon. You're doing something to make your opportunities greater, while other people are out there just going, life sucks and it's hard for me. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I just got on a little tantrum there. So anyway, are you in compliance? Cornell Law Review says if you fail to keep proper records, this is the minutes and resolutions, issuing stock, having a corporate minute book at all, but then having the proper things in it. If you fail to keep proper corporate records, this is not accounting records. There's accounting records and there's corporate compliance. The compliance side is what is in the minute book. If you fail to keep proper corporate records, and if you're ever sued, you have a 50 to 94% chance of losing your personal assets to satisfy the business judgment. 50 to 94% chance of losing your assets, your personal stuff, to satisfy that business judgment. If you want to stop piercing the corporate veil and begin protecting your corporate veil, you got to get the documents between the business and you, so that things that come in, like your kid goes and rear ends somebody and they come after you and they find out you own a business, you have something of value. Oh, let's go get that too. Or they come after your business and they pierce through and get your personal stuff. The documents are the only thing that build the impenetrable brick, reinforced concrete, Kevlar, kryptonite wall. The only thing are the corporate documents. So here's the thing. If you're sweating this right now or going, oh my gosh, this is a lot to think about, or I don't even know what to do, no matter how far you might be behind in getting this work done, don't sweat it. It's fixable. It's fixable. You can get it fixed. And we do that kind of work for tens of thousands of businesses. We have a program. It's called the Corporate Veil Protection Service. I'm going to tell you just really briefly about that, because it'll tell you what we do. You can try to do it yourself, or you can say, geez, it would be so much easier to give it to Laughlin to do it because it's inexpensive, it's comprehensive, and it's done for you. You don't have to do it. You just have to be willing to get on the phone for 10 minutes a month and talk to your representative at my company. Okay, so let me just tell you what this Corporate Veil Protection Service does. First of all, it makes sure that all the corporate formalities are done. We're going to get all the records from the beginning to now consolidated in a logical, organized way and properly ratified. We're going to create a corporate history. So as the business grows, you now have a place to refer back to your corporate history. The goal of this work is to eliminate the risk of having your corporate veil pierced by the IRS, by the courts, creditors, or other legal ne'er-do-wells who want to take your stuff away from you. We don't want them to take it away from you, and we want to work with you to ensure that that is virtually impossible to do. And we back it up with a big guarantee. What else do we do? We're going to make sure your company stays in good standing in the eyes of the law and the state. We're going to streamline your business operations and your business record keeping. A lot of people say, well, I take notes. I have it on a yellow pad. I have it on Google Sheets. I've got it on a napkin. My partner and I had a meeting and I wrote a bunch of notes down on a piece of napkin. I threw it in a file. What we want to do is bring all that together, put it in the proper format so that it sits in the book, so that if it's ever examined by the courts or by an auditor, or you're trying to get a government contract, or you're trying to raise money, or you're trying to go bankrupt, no matter what for good things or bad things, we want the corporation or LLC to protect you and separate so it can go down and you don't go down with it. So having streamlined business operations and business record keeping done properly in the right format, in the right context of the book, will tell those examining you, oh, this person's super unusual. They know the rules and are following them. They're going to be a tough nut to crack. Okay. If you can stop a lawsuit before it starts, that's better. So look, for however many of you are on there right now, do us all a favor, open up another tab in your browser, just open a tab and go to corpveilprotection.com, corpveilprotection.com. Open the tab, it'll take 2 seconds. And basically what that is that's an order form to say, yeah, I'm interested in this. And just 1 second on questions, unless Scott, if you want to read it, we can do that.
Yeah.
But I've got a couple more slides and we can do questions. But go to corpveilprotection.com. And if you would like us to do what we do for tens of thousands of other companies and do a do it for you board secretary where we're asking you questions, creating the proper records, emailing them back to you so that you can sign them and put them in your corporate record book, signed with your title back in the corporate minute book. If you're interested in that, you're going to go to Corp Veil Protection. It's only $995 for the first year. And that is two things, guys. Listen to what I'm going to say. This is from today. As soon as you sign up, from today out 12 months. Okay. So we're going to work with you for 12 months going forward. But if you're in business, whether this is your podcast business or some other business that you're doing, you're podcasting to build up that other business activity, we'll go back 8 years. 8 years. As long as you'll work with us, we can't do it by crystal ball, but as long as you'll get on the phone with us and let us interview you, we'll go back and we'll get all the documents for the last number of years cleaned up, ratified by the current board, ratifying the decisions of the previous board by the current board, and you're going to get all the way caught up. We do all of that you have a 12-month window to do it. So you have to engage with us, but we do it all unlimited documents. Could be 30 documents or 300. It doesn't matter. $995. Okay. You go to Corp Veil Protection, or you can do it in payments of $225 down and $80 a month. Now, the good news about if you do it in installments is we actually report to the Business Credit Bureau. So by doing this in installments, we're going to be positively reporting to the Business Credit Bureau so that you start to build corporate credit. So you don't have to be the personal guarantor forever on everything your business does. If you want to learn about how to build corporate credit, we're going to provide you one of the accounts that's going to start showing that you know how to act properly as a corporation. And you, like, I have credit cards now that are on businesses. I don't have to personally guarantee them because the company has its own credit. So I don't have to personally guarantee it. So it's a really great idea to do the $225 down, $80 a month. Now, what if you don't have a corporation or LLC yet, but you want to have one? For the exact same price, $995 or $225 down, $80 a month, plus whatever the filing fees are in your state. Okay. So we'll do the same work. We'll form the company and do corporate veil for a single payment of $995 plus filing fees, or $225 down and $80 a month plus filing fees, $80 a month for 11 months, not 12 months. $225 this month, and then 11 months of $80. What happens next year, Aaron, when we get to month 13? The price goes down either to a single payment of $499 or to $49 a month. Easy peasy. And as long as you're making the monthly payments, we're going to keep reporting to the credit bureau, and it's going to be a great thing for you and your business. We back this all up with a $125,000 corporate compliance guarantee. We've done this for, well, this is over 200,000 satisfied clients now. We have an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't do this level of business for almost 50 years, offering these kinds of guarantees and have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau if people are unhappy with your results. Folks, we've been doing this for a long time. We know what to do. We can do this for you. We do it inexpensively, holistically, completely. You have to talk to us, but as long as you'll do that, we'll get the work done and you will be safe. You'll sleep better at night and your corporate veil will be impenetrable. Okay. So if you do it today or during this conference, so it's got to be by Monday. It's got to be by Monday. Fast act. Well, I don't know. When do the recordings go out, Scott?
Recordings will be out Monday or Tuesday. So can we push it to next Friday?
I'll push it to Friday, whatever that date is, but it's
the 31st of January.
Okay. So, through the month of January, here's what you're going to get. And you're going to love this, Scott, because I didn't talk to Megan about this. I decided, here's what I'm going to do. I mean, it'll be fine, but it's funny because she'll get surprised on Monday. So fast action bonuses, folks. First, not only are you going to get the corporate veil protection service, we're going to give you our comprehensive tax assessment. We normally charge $495 for this. I don't know, almost everybody who goes through the assessment gets money back. Almost 100%. I can't guarantee it, but virtually everybody gets money back. One of my clients got $230,000 back by going through and restating finding where the holes were, restating the taxes based on this assessment. $230,000. That was a good day.
Yes, sir.
Free. You're going to get it for free. Okay. So you identify missed deductions, discover additional deductions. This says 80% of Americans overpay their taxes. And I'm telling you what, the bigger and more complicated your tax situation gets, the more you probably are overpaying. We have our what we call Stay Safe monitoring, where we're working with you regularly, monthly calls to help you stay in compliance, reminders about your own filings with states or your other industry associations, assistance with business questions, quarterly risk assessments. We charge $600, $595 for this on the website. I'm going to include it if you get this done by the end of January through Corp Veil Protection. See, it's there at the bottom of the page, Corp Veil Protection. I'm also going to send you some books. They may not be these 5 books. I'm always buying books, like boxes of books that I've read that I think are cool. So there are probably 10 or 15 that I love that we're going to send you 5 real books in the mail, not digital copies, not PDFs. You're going to get a box with 5 books in it that I believe will, if you will read them and pull out the nuggets that apply to you, will dramatically improve whatever activity you're involved in any business at all. Okay. So you're going to get a comprehensive business library from me of books that I've chosen. So the first 10 people that do this are going to get the tax assessment, the books, the stay safe monitoring. That's what the value is. Don't call that number right now because there's nobody at the office, but you can write the number down if you want to ask more questions on Monday. 800-648-0966. You can write the number down and call on Monday or call this next week. Say, hey, I was on the Mass Media Summit. I heard Aaron talk and so on. Or you can go right now to Corp Veil Protection and just enroll. And remember, if you do it in the installments, that's going to start to build business credit. So that's it, Scott. That's what I've got for your folks today. Do we have any questions?
We do have a couple questions online here. Pulling it from the different Facebook groups that it's got to share too. They really love the fact that you're building business credit for them. So one of the things one of the things that Gene asked on here, if we've got a podcast not selling anything, should we still have an LLC set up for our show?
Oh, it sounded like the way you were reading, I thought you were going to answer the question. Well, the first question I would ask is, why are you doing the podcast?
Yeah.
What's the end result you're trying to get from the podcast? If you're just doing it because you have a message you want to share and there's nothing you're trying to monetize, you're not trying to find customers, you're not trying to do anything from a business, whether for-profit or nonprofit business perspective, like you're talking about bird watching or something, and you're not selling your books, you're not holding events, you're not, taking people out on bird watching expeditions. If you're not doing anything like, and you're just talking, then the only reason to do it is to protect your intellectual property. But if you're doing anything at all where you're going to have money exchange hands in any way, sponsorship, advertising, things that you're going to sell on the back end to your people that, become your fans on your show, if there's anything like that, then I would suggest for the few $100s it costs to do it, you're way better off to have everything locked behind fortress walls than to just risk it. But that's up to you and your tolerance for risk and what you even have to risk in your life. If you have, your business could be losing money, but you've got $500,000 in a 401k, and you've got another, you've got an antique piano in your house and some artwork hanging up in the living room that's all got some value, you might want to get a business entity set up.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. If you're doing coaching, if you're doing any other stuff like, where you're giving advice on what your main purpose is in the public, it's better to keep that wall between you, that corporate veil protection between you. Separate out. You've told me one point that, one big company that sends you a ton of entities has each little bit of software or chip on a different entity.
Oh, what I was telling you was I was talking with the CFO of Intel.
Yes, that's at Intel.
Yeah, I was talking with the CFO of Intel Corporation, and he said that he had over 3,000 business entities he was personally responsible for as CFO. And they had, at Intel, they had, every contract, every piece, every patent, every whatever, every initiative in different countries, all in separate business entities. Even you'd go, wasn't that kind of overkill? Well, if there's a lawsuit, if there's even the threat of a lawsuit, it's going to be limited to that one little thing and not to all of Intel Corporation.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you have something to lose, you want to, it's the reason we put on our safety belts. It's the reason we wear a life vest when we're out water skiing. It's the reason we put on a helmet when we're snow skiing. It's the reason that we put on, if you're a motorcycle rider, you put on gear that if you fall, you're going to be protected. It's the reason you lock your door at your home at night and pull the shades. It's not because you're doing anything wrong. You don't know what else could happen to you or what nefarious ideas other people have about you. So you want
nefarious ne'er-do-wells, as you like to say, right?
Nefarious ne'er-do-wells. I love that expression, ne'er-do-wells. What else? Any other questions?
Yeah. So if we have multiple entities that we need to set up, what does that look like? What's that cost for if you have multiple?
Yeah, the first one is $995, and subsequent ones are $595. So the price takes a pretty good drop. Then year 2, they're all $499 or $49 a month.
Mm-hmm. One of the things, guys, is
if you have a whole bunch of entities, like let's say you're a real estate investor and you've got 30 properties and they're all in an individual LLC, we can talk to you specifically about that and look at the activity level of those and come up with a kind of a package price. Most people don't have that, but I've had as many as 45 entities come from an event similar to this. So we'll talk to you and work something out. But if you have 1, 2, 3 companies, 4 companies, first one's $995, and then it goes to $595.
Nice. Yeah,
it's a bargain.
It is a bargain, guys. You have to realize media. We're all in the media aspect of things, and if you're wanting to take your show to the next level and bring on sponsors or selling products or memberships or things like that, look, just do yourself a favor. Start acting like it's a business, treating it like a business. So start with the end in mind, as Aaron likes to say. And that's what it is. Yeah, this may start off as a hobby and some cool thing you do on the fun side, but start with the end in mind. If you want to take your business and monetize it like many of you are with multiple ways of doing it, take the time to go ahead and set it up properly. It'll help you sleep a little bit at night too.
Absolutely. Was there one last question? Did you say?
That's the only question. Yes, it ends. The special promotions end January 31st. CorpVeilProtection.com. I put the link in the chat roll, so it's clickable for you. CorpVeilProtection.com. Now, if you do it after January 1st, the bonuses may not be there. They may be different or may not be there at all, but they're still a valuable asset to doing this together, putting together, even put the $225 down and making monthly payments. Who wouldn't want to have their entity start creating business credit for them? Start getting that stuff and getting some credit history for you to take things.
Yeah, and Scott, just from a perspective point of view, I mean, we sell hundreds of these a month.
Yeah.
And virtually none of them have these fast action bonuses. It's just $9.95. And we do it every single day. When we come onto an event like this, especially it's digital, people may be paying attention, maybe, listening here and surfing Facebook or something, because there's no accountability on an online summit. And so we create these fast action bonuses so people will go, oh, maybe I should pay attention. Maybe I should do something. But this service is completely worth it for the regular price. To get this other stuff is just us going, please pay attention. We know that you've got a lot of things coming at you right now, plus whatever's going on in your own life during this. We just want to get your attention with some good stuff. But if you do it after the beginning of February, don't worry about it. It's totally worth the price. Utterly worth the price.
Yes, it is.
We look forward to working with you guys.
Yep. Good stuff. That's the last question. Well, Aaron, I will let you get back to your Saturday of being grandfather, husband, and outdoorsman. You got some big plans that you're doing tonight or tomorrow?
No, tomorrow is she will be 2-year-old granddaughter. Her birthday party's tomorrow. Today was my 25-year-old son's birthday. So we did stuff with him. I think we're going out to dinner tonight. We'll get up tomorrow. We're going to do grandkid stuff, have this party at the farm. And we live out on a farm, folks. And so everybody wants to come to the farm all the time for parties. So we're going to do that. So now I get to be home this week. And then next week, the crazy travel starts.
Crystal asked a question here. Does the regular package at $9.95 include a monthly call to keep your records up to date?
Yes.
Yes, it does. How is the Stay Safe monitoring different than that?
How is the what?
How is the Stay Safe monitoring different than that?
Oh, so we offer kind of a higher level of, so we offer an extra thing where there's more business sort of consulting going on versus just us calling you. You have access to everybody, including our executive team, if you get into hot water on stuff. So the Stay Safe monitoring is in addition to us just calling. And here's what happens. If you sign up, You're going to get a monthly call. You're also going to get an email with a little questionnaire to kind of jog your memory. Then you can either just quickly send in the questionnaire, or we'll get on the phone call and interview the stuff out of you. But then people have more questions sometimes, and we may get a lawyer involved. We may get an accountant involved. We may get somebody that's got substantial authority on what you're asking. That goes along at a higher level of service because we're going to spend more time with you.
Yep.
But if you do it now, you're going to get all of it.
Exactly. That's a huge thing to have. Awesome.
Yeah.
Great, right. Aaron. Thank you so much for coming on Mass Media Podcast. Someone talking about how to save their podcasting assets.
Let's keep them safe. Keep the assets safe, baby. All right. I'll talk to you later. You have a great weekend. Thanks for having me on.
You too, buddy. And there is an email to you with stuff to do in Barcelona. All right.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Talk to you later. Bye.
Yeah, bye.